Thanks to Adam Audio for sending these over for me to check out and share with you here on the channel today. Beyond providing the speakers, they have no further input into this video, and this is not a sponsored piece. I also feel like I owe them an additional thank you because I have taken absolutely forever to get this video out, so my apologies and thank you to Adam for being so cool. Over the past few weeks, I've been using the D3V speakers as my primary desktop speakers, and I've enjoyed them so much connected to my computer via USB-C that I ordered a RODE NT1A 5th generation microphone, which you're hearing right now, and that's got a USB-C connection too. And I've been working with no audio interface now for about a month, and the simplicity and flexibility of this kind of setup is really appealing to me, honestly, for day-to-day work. A few other reviewers pointed out the same flaw that I also felt was the only real thing holding these speakers back, and that was when they go into standby mode, they don't wake on their own when a source starts playing again. Now, Adam Audio quickly released a firmware update to address this, not adding auto wake function to the standby mode though, but instead they allow you now to just turn auto standby off altogether. And I think that's a bit of a blunt approach because I do like that these speakers turn themselves off when I'm not using them, but I'm honestly happy that I'm not going to have to turn them back on again a dozen times a day like I have been, because I get sidetracked a lot while I'm editing or working on audio-based work with non-audio tasks, and they just keep timing out, and then you've got to turn them back on manually. So you can, of course, still turn them off manually, and I'm going to try to remember to do that whenever I step away from the desk now. And we'll have to wait to see what future firmware updates bring, but it was nice to have a simple issue to experience their firmware update process and their custom app that is available for Windows and PC that makes updating these speakers very easy. That was a really cool thing to get to use. On the rear panel of the left speaker, there are processing controls for room position, desk type, and room treatment type, along with USB-C and analog 1/4-inch TRS inputs. I really like that you can switch between those inputs by pressing the volume control twice, and that allows you to connect another source like a mixer or another interface to these monitors without needing additional switching equipment. If you press that volume control just once, it mutes the speakers, and that's really handy too. And if you press it 3 times, it swaps the left and the right channels. Now, these speakers are set up in what I consider a typical arrangement for desktop speakers, and that is they have the amplifier, the processing, and the I/O located in one active speaker with a passive remote speaker connecting to that via a custom cable. For purpose-built studio monitors, it's generally more common to see 2 identical active speakers, as you really want the internal volume of the speaker enclosures as well as the audio signal paths to be as similar as possible from left to right. For the intended application here though, I don't mind how they've done it, and with the ability to swap which speaker is left or right on these, you definitely don't have to have the volume control and the headphone output on the left side of your desk if you don't like the default setting. If I could request a total wish list feature for a future update, it would be amazing if they could add summing the mix to mono to this selection of controls, but I can do that in software easily enough. These are marketed as desktop monitors, and with a 3.5-inch woofer paired with their D-Art hand-folded membrane tweeter, I think they're a fantastic little speaker to pair with a workstation. I think they do a great job for cutting, editing, and tons of other media-related tasks that don't require absolute perfection in the audio realm. I personally do like to mix on smaller monitors, having gotten used to them over the years in cramped broadcast studios and trucks, but even still, a 3.5-inch woofer is pretty small for real mixing. The 3.5-inch passive radiators on each side really do make these speakers sound bigger than they are, and unlike a lot of folded membrane or ribbon drivers I've heard in the past, I really like these. They're not harsh or overly pronounced in the top end, and I don't feel that gap in the crossover that I experienced with the PreSonus R65 monitors, for instance, which I felt made dialogue lack definition and clarity in that crossover between the folded membrane driver and the woofer. These are good sounding monitors though, and I really have enjoyed having them on the desk, both for the listening experience and using them to edit and to cut with, as well as the functionality they give me without needing an audio interface. You can get these speakers in either black or the white finish that I have here, and you've probably already noticed the removable angled desk stands that they come with. Now that might seem like a simple thing, but when you buy most small monitors, you're kind of on your own for getting them positioned well, and this is a nice start. They have some isolation padding on the bottom of the angled stands, and they also include some to apply directly to the monitors if you'd prefer to use them that way. They also have a handy standard 3/8 inch screw mount on the bottom, and that gives you a lot of options for stand or clamp mounting these however you might need. So overall, I think these are a good deal, and I would definitely recommend them to anybody looking to put together an editing suite or a workstation. They are in an interesting price point at $350 for the pair, and being a 3.5 inch woofer, there aren't a lot of other things to compare in that price range, and especially in a 3.5 inch. There are a handful of 3 inch and 4 inch, and of course 5 inch drivers that kind of fall into that $175 per speaker. And in that case, these are competing directly with the popular Yamaha HS5 and then the Mackie MR524. But of course, both of those are 5 inch speakers, and they're only analog input, XLR 1/4 inch, and in the case of the Mackie, it also has RCA input, but no digital and certainly no USB input. So these are kind of in a class of their own as far as USB-C monitors in this price range. And you can look at the major retailers' websites, and for the most part, USB-C isn't even an input type you can search by for monitors. So this is kind of some new territory, and I think they're a good deal. I'd love to see a version in the future, maybe with an integrated power supply, so you don't have to carry the power brick, because just being able to connect these up directly to your computer with USB-C and no audio interface is really handy. And I think they're well made, and with the proper case, I think they'd really travel well. And the headphone output on the front even sounds good. It automatically turns off the speakers when you connect to that, and it's quite powerful. It drives even my 250 ohm Beyerdynamic DT990 Pros just fine and gets them quite loud. And finally, I've looked at a bunch of the newer monitors that are coming out lately, and it seems like a lot of them are coming with just analog inputs and Bluetooth input. I've tried a number of desktop speakers and small monitors now that have Bluetooth inputs. I've even got a set of Mackie speakers right now, and I just personally don't have a use for it in real life. I just never end up wanting to connect a device via Bluetooth to those speakers because they're usually right next to my computer. And just for me, it's not something I use, but having these with a USB-C input is excellent. And personally, I would love to see digital inputs, SPDIF or AES or something. So overall for me, these are extremely useful, and I've enjoyed them, and I really do like having them on the desk for everyday work, as opposed to a bigger pair of monitors that are harder to position and require an interface to sound so good. So let me know down in the comments if you have any questions.